You may find yourself with the printer and software where you cannot sync in the models into the build platform. This presents a problem because the software will then create little supports or sprues where you don't really want them, and this is because we cannot sync it into the table. So we need flat models. So if we are pinning open models or whichever models you want to pin together, we need them flush with the base of the model. So here what I'm doing is I'm going to be positioning one of these, and then we're going to copy them across a few times. So the best way to do that is to look at it from the top view and then in transparent mode. So using the G and the R key, we can see where the cylinder is so that it doesn't collide inside into our model. Then click on copy, grab G and R to rotate, and we're going to continue doing so into the best possible locations. So then exit transparent mode, which is that icon over here, and let's view and see what is being done. Now I'm going to choose to move these up a little bit. So I'm going to select all of them. Make sure you only select the articulator pins and not the model. And then I'm going to move them up a little bit. But I can see I've forgotten to include one in my selection. Control Z to go back, Shift left click, and then moving it up. I can then even scale this a bit. S to scale and Z. So SZ and then move your mouse. But this doesn't quite solve the problem because the software will then it will be standing away from the platform. So you will then be forced to use the sprueing system and having all these little supports. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting using boolean cuts to cut it flush. So I'm going to view it from the front, and then we can either place our cursor or we can click on Shift S on the keyboard. So before we do that, I'll just invoke a little add-on that you can see what I'm doing on the left hand side with my mouse, the left corner. So Shift S and cursor to world origin. This will place the cursor into the center, then Shift A and create a cube. Now you don't see the cube because it is so very large, it is outside our view. We're working in millimeters, remember. So click on S and then move the mouse to scale it down. Perfect. Now we've got a cube in the center of Blender. I want to see through the cube. So in the model designer, go on the menu and click on wire and move the arrow upwards. Now we need one cutting tool and not two, so if I copy another one, we'll have two different objects. So to make one object, go to Tab, make sure it's all selected, all of the vertices are selected. Make sure the magnet tool and the proportional editing is off. Click on Shift D on your keyboard, so Shift D, which means duplicate. So these shortcut keys are all downloadable. We've got them listed on our website. So Shift D and then GZ to grab it in the Z direction. So we are in edit mode and we're going to get out of edit mode. Notice where I've placed these cubes. So that's easy enough to do. Make sure that they are big enough and they cover the area that is required. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the top pins. So at this stage I'm going to make sure they are joined up because we're only going to cut them once. and then we're going to join them, or Control J on the keyboard. Make sure that you have updated the Model Designer module, because these articulator structures have been remeshed into one geometry. Again, I've joined the lower ones, and then what we need to do is doing the Boolean cuts. So I'm going to select my model. It can be any object, so just do one of them. In the Properties toolbox, go to the little spanner, and then we're going to add a modifier called boolean. And the boolean has three options: difference, union, and intersect. But we're going to make sure it's difference. Take your dropper and plonk it down on your cube. Notice how the name changes when the name is there, and select it. Notice how it's immediately cut out the model. Now, instead of repeating this exercise 3 more times, we're going to link this modifier. We're going to copy this modifier. So this is really done, and it's a very cool trick in Blender to know. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy that modifier which exists over to the other ones. So select your models, the lower pins, the upper pins, and your model. Shift left click on the model. Notice that the one with the modifier has been selected last. It has an orange line around it, where all the other objects have a red line around it. Then click Ctrl L on your keyboard, Ctrl L, and copy the modifiers. This will then have copied all these modifiers across each object. Now we can either apply them separately, or a shortcut trick which is very cool. Go to Objects, go to Convert, and click on Mesh. Note that they are all still selected. This will apply each and every modifier. Take your cube and then X, delete it. Now you have them all flush. Select your upper pins and select the model, File, Export STL. Make sure you click on Selection Only, and then send them off to your printer.